Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 472, recording today, Wednesday the 23rd of November 2016. I want to say thank you very much to all of you people watching. We should be streaming live to Facebook. Hello, I feel like Gus Honeybun. So I turn the lights off. And also hello live on Facebook, hello to YouTube Live, and hello to the people who are watching via sonicstate.com/live, where there's also an IRC chat room. So there's kind of three places you can comment and chat. Though I can't see the Facebook one, I can sort of monitor only one at a time, but I won't blather on about that. What is this? This is a podcast to do with music technology, synthesizers, software, production, live shows, MIDI controllers, anything to do with the technology of making music or the technology of performing music, and maybe some of the other sort of social aspects to it, or music sales, distribution, whatever you like, really. I mean, we kind of wing it a little bit, but I want to say thank you very much for joining us. We should also say a thank you to our sponsors. Obviously, Isotope will be giving away another copy of Neutron. Can you believe it? And that seems to be a very popular competition. Got a lot of entries last week, so hopefully we'll keep those numbers up and everybody will be happy. Also want to say thank you very much to the guys in the chat room. I think I can hit that one there. This is the one that I can put on screen. I can't manage the YouTube one, unfortunately, but hello everybody. Welcome out there. Right, let's introduce our guests. We'll start off with Mr. Ty Unwin, composer there in his synth cave, taken a few short seconds out of his crazy schedule when I'm sure he'd rather be sleeping to join us. How are you, Ty? Are you well?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, excellent. It's been a good week.
I'm glad to hear it. Have you been composing lots of synth-based period drama music?
No, I've been doing the Midge album, and I've been using a lot of
the Dreadmau5. Yeah, it looks good on you, Ty, I have to say.
Very much. Been getting a lot of use this week. And
it's funny, isn't it? Once you start with something like that, it's just like, it's just so much easier to use that because it always sounds good.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a fantastic little synth.
Is that starting to approach your? If you had to take one synth to a session, if it was a mono, for instance, would it be?
Yeah, if I had a mono synth to take, if I just had to take a mono synth, it would be up there in the running. Definitely, it's a great. Just in terms of versatility. Very versatile.
Oh, you've got us all gassing away. I can see the people on the comments. So, ow. Yeah, Dreadbot. Anyway, well, welcome, Ty. Thank you very much for joining us. And also we have Mr. Gaz Williams from his bass guitar. What is that thing that's dangling behind your head? It looks like some kind of giant... that.
Oh, it's a vocal booth.
Ah, okay. It's just the angle of it. Sorry, I was thinking, what on earth is that? It looks like some kind of police equipment.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, Gaz, bass player, producer, music technologist, coming to see us tomorrow. I think we're going to have another look at Circuit, right?
It's about time. Lots of things have happened in the Circuit world. I think it's really so we need to put that right, because our original review is quite out of date now, really, because it's really has addressed so many of the things that we sort of flagged them. But brilliant, really good. Anyway, but yes. That's tomorrow, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. This week's going very fast.
But yeah, nice to be on the show. I'm quite excited about today's show, actually.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that at least one of us is. That's brilliant. No, I am too. Sorry, that was a cheap joke. A cheap joke. Right, well, where shall we start? Let's see what we've got here. Yeah. Now, I haven't got a video, but if I play this, then we'll have a bit of noise from it, and I'll switch to the screen. This is the news of the Modal Craft video at the Craft Synthesizer, which is it's a little semi-DIY. I mean, there's no construction involved other than snapping it together. And this is the demo, I think, that Mr. Ty Unwin put together. And it's surprisingly varied sonically. So this is the synth. It's very small. Designed basically to entice you to buy some modal kit before Christmas. I mean, but as far as we know, going to be here in the stores in, I think, December 14th, I believe. Can I turn that off? I don't seem to be able to. Oh, yes, I can. I can turn it off. Anyway, so that's it. This Bristol-based company, it's actually really interesting. I've got one here as well, which I could just bring in so you can get an idea for scale. So that's it. And it makes a noise. I've got a little bit of pulse width going there for you just to give you a kind of, a sense of pulse width, because as everybody knows, that's one of my things, or at least if the internet is to be believed, it's the only thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm going to start with you, Ty, because you've presumably had one for a while, and you made the demo, and you kind of got a bit behind the scenes. I mean, what do you think?
I've only had it. I had it a few days. That's all. I had it a few days, and that demo was. They just wanted a demo, and I could literally grab an hour. So that's just an hour of just me multi-tracking it, but kind of a lot of that was just done. It's all the real time, all the parameter changes, all done in real time, and just literally recorded the track, next track, set an alarm for 1 hour. What was ready at 1 hour just got mixed down, and that's it. So it kind of proves how easy it is to use. Really, that was the main thing. There's no processing on that. There's no EQ. There's no effects. That's literally straight out of the box.
Nice. And I'm guessing that you're quite enthusiastic about this, because I mean, you were saying that it had you had a bit of a kind of first synth vibe to it, right?
It was literally, for me, it was like the day I got my first synth. It was like Christmas morning, getting your first synth, and that as much as the fact that you could look at it and go, well, it's quite toy-like. It's very obviously, it is what it is. It's basically just 5 circuit boards stuck together at the end of the day, and so it feels quite toy. There's no weight to it, but you do have to just keep saying, for the money, you shouldn't be able to get the kind of sounds that you're getting out of it. And there's so many things about it that are kind of quite hidden away, quite quite strange, but you can get some great sounds out of it. It's £79, and I mean I said to you before, I've been kind of defending it on a few places. You have to just keep saying, for £79, it's incredible. It's a 2 oscillator synth that can do weird things. I mean, you're going to do a review of it, so you can give all the spec and things. But this is something which is going to have an iPhone and iPad editor. You can store 16 patches on it, but obviously using the editor, which gives you full control over everything, including all the envelopes and whatever. You can save banks of patches. It's just great fun. It really took me back to my first synth and a 4 and just messing, and it's just great fun.
And the thing that surprised me, and I don't know whether this is psychological, but when you plug it in and listen to it, you go, oh, that sounds really kind of quite large and fulsome, doesn't it? I know, Gaz, I'm guessing, we did the Pocket Operators, very similar kind of vibe, wasn't it? This sort of bare bones circuit board with protruding buttons and stuff. This is a very similar sort of thing, but from just down the road from your place.
Hooray! I think that's very cool. I mean, God, who saw this coming? This is ridiculous, isn't it? In terms of, Modal establishing themselves as one of the premium synthesizer brands, with these fantastic but very expensive keyboards, and then coming out with this.
Yeah,
cheap.
Talk about both ends of the market.
But it's very similar to what Teenage Engineering did with the OP1. A lot of people were like, oh, it's very expensive for, or seemingly expensive for what it is. And then they bring out the Pocket Operators. But on the subject of the Pocket Operators, if you took the price of a Pocket Operator and the, frankly, necessary silicon case, then you're talking about the same price as this. And
we're just
functionally, comparatively,
Yeah.
Just so in terms of sound, I've got the Pocket Operators, and I put the Pocket Operators up against this. And there's... it's very easy to say they're in a different league. It is just DSP at the end of the day. But the depth of sound that you get from this compared to the Pocket Operators is on a completely different level. The Pocket Operators are great. They're good fun, and they are what they are. But this, in the context of a track, you could get away with, this is a proper synth. The Pocket Operators, as lovely as they are, they never feel to me like proper synths. They never sound to me like proper synths. They're good for what they are.
It's hard work to get them to fit to something else.
Absolutely. Whereas with this, it's not that not that case at all. These are, these sounds like a proper synth, and I keep saying that. And also the fact that this isn't. Sorry, what were you going to say, Gaz?
Oh well, the MIDI. Well, I was jumping the gun a little bit to the missing MIDI port issue.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, but I mean, for those who don't, it's basically a single USB port. You've got headphone out and stereo out. The USB provides the power, but it's also class compliant. I think probably because of the cost, if you stuck MIDI on there, I mean, I think the way it works is whatever it costs at a basic level. Say it costs $5 to put MIDI on it. You multiply that by 4 by the time it gets into the shops, and that's another £20. And if you put more ports on it or whatever. And I guess, so decisions have to be made. But I take your point about that, Gaz, for sure.
Well, I mean, I'm not raging against it myself personally. I'm just thinking, what looks quite interesting is there any hacking points on it though? With it all being exposed, are they doing anything that could suggest you could tap into it anywhere?
I can't see anything. Hold on, let me just. I think the boards are sandwich boards, so I think most of the tracking is inside, and and it's also because it is DSP. There's not an analog kind of analog, right. I suppose. So you're unlikely to be able to do it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it would seem to me that if they've got this and they throw this out, there may well be other things to come. I mean, who knows what else they could make if they can make this?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It occurred to me.
Yeah.
If there was a lot of demand for it with MIDI ports, then make another model with MIDI ports, I suppose. But the thing it reminded me of, the thing I'd like to sort of mention about, though, it reminded me of the walled-off rocket, in a way, in concept. And certainly in terms of because it transmits and receives its MIDI, doesn't it? So you can record a performance, record all its parameter shifts in MIDI, play it all back, and then interact with it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I've been playing around with it, and it does spit out MIDI CCs for everything you do. Yeah,
you've got an 8-knob MIDI controller then as well, haven't you?
I suppose. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
you can control, 80 quid. You can control soft synth with it as well.
Yeah,
and each page. So there's 2 pages. So it's basically a 16.
That is my big question, sort of, because I haven't seen one for real. So I've been really puzzled about how you access the second page.
I can show you that now if you like. So brilliant. Here, and here. So here, So that's my sound there. At this level, that's cut off. And then if I press the button and then it goes to the second page, so now you're on the second bank.
Okay.
So now
you got LED lights telling you what page you're on.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything I can do. Well, that's distortion. I go back to page 1.
Wow.
Yeah, that's full distortion.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely got a kind of vibe to it, and it does sound much bigger than you'd expect. I mean, let's not pretend that this is going to replace, a fully blown mono synth with all of the largesse of it, but it definitely has a vibe to it. So.
And I think, as I was saying, that apparently this is going to be the first of. There's going to be a range of these. This is the first one, and I think the thing you also need to know about their choice of USB was obviously the USB side of things means that you can link it in with the iPad or iPhone app, whatever it is, which gives you full editing of every parameter and the saving of patches. But more to the point, if you use it with a little hub, you can control multiples of these from one iPad.
Okay, so you could hook up more than one.
So
multiple voices. Gaz is getting excited.
Yeah, well, I mean, how much would 4 of them cost? And then having that, then you're getting into something.
If there's a way to kind of do overflow, so you can have a 4 voice and all the controls were linked, that would be pretty cool. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case, because it's after all, if it's software control.
I suppose it's firmware upgradable as well.
I would imagine so. I mean, if it's a USB slot, but you know, it's hard to be totally sure about this. I mean, I'm guessing. There's a guy coming over here on Friday who's going to show me the because they have. I can't get hold of a version of the iOS app. And I'm going to see that, so I don't know what to expect yet, and I don't know at what state it is, but I'm assuming it's sort of getting pretty close.
So why wouldn't anyone want one of these things then at that price? It's crazy, isn't it? They're going to be a big success.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, because obviously, you know, a company that has large niche products like that. I mean, you know, because they're synthesizers, they're full synthesizers, 008, 002, 001, you know, they're expensive. You know, they are expensive and built to be so. They're not trying to make a sort of super cheap. So this gives a different bite of the cherry, I suppose.
Can I ask a question to both you and Ty then, Nick? If you were to, in terms of the design of the synthesizer, you know, the signal flow, whatever, what's your favorite? What's your favourite thing? What makes it a little bit special, the synth? And that question to both.
Interesting. You go first, Ty. I'll have a think.
Actually, I love the distortion because it's a wave shaping distortion, and it's really dirty as hell, which, you know, kind of is good. I like that. And also the delay, again, it's very, very basic and very characterful, shall we say. So and also, you know, the FM on it is incredible. It's got FM. I mean, don't forget all these things that, you know, as I was going through the parameters, you're suddenly going, what, this can do FM. And also the you know, kind of with the modulation side of things, the range of that is enormous. You know, there's a lot of range in.
It's a single modulation bus, though, isn't it? I think, but you can choose. Yeah,
it is. It is. Yeah, so it's a single modulation, but in terms of, you know, kind of range and, you know, kind of rate and waveform, it's fully spec'd. You know, it's
Yeah, one thing I liked about it, it's got you can modulate the mix between the oscillators, so you can tune the oscillators so that they're detune or that they go into this sort of weird chord mode where they get you can get up to 8 voices. It's like super saw type of thing as well, which I haven't really explored fully yet. But anyway, I mean, we'll save some of it for review. But yeah, I think the only place you can get it at the moment is Gear for Music in the UK.
Is it available now then? Is it available before Christmas?
For pre-order.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the great thing about it is you have to say from a marketing point of view, it's available for pre-order now, delivering before Christmas. That's the thing.
Wow.
You know, they've got it right where, you know, I said this a couple of weeks ago about the new Korg, the little thing. Great product, but the fact that it's not being delivered until after Christmas means that they will they would have lost a lot of kind of Christmas sales, whereas this is available for Christmas. So, you know, it's kind of spot on because this is proper. Anyone that's a synth boy and wants it's a great present.
Yeah, you can. I think there's a battery pack that you can get with it that allows you to, power it off a battery so you can sit on your.
Yeah,
December 14th, I believe, is the expected drop date. So, you know, I mean, and I really, really hope that, you know, that is all fine because, as we know, some of these things are out of your hands. You know.
The one thing I think it's going to do is change the public perception of Modal as a company, though. I think, and for the better as well. I think if people maybe thought that it was quite a elite thing, for want of a better description, this is, you know, this sort of means that it's, you know, not. It's kind of. I think it's brilliant. If that makes sense, I think it's going to make Modal.
Well, it'll certainly get them recognised and known about as well, which is obviously something that's hard to strike. You know, we're living in a time when there are lots of synths from lots of major manufacturers, and it's quite hard to get noticed. Yeah. So I think it'll serve multiple purposes there, I suppose. Okay, well, excuse me. Let's move on to our second topic. How do you fancy going to school? Oops. Or even going to school. I'll press the button again. There we are.
This is a cardinal sin of EDM right here. I'll dive in and say, hey, I'm a trance DJ. And I can hit one note and put a bass drum on it, and that's my tune. This class is just a good primer for anyone wanting to get into the production of electronic music. This can all be done correctly with minimal amount of software, which is why you can have a kid make a dance hit on a laptop. using an SSL G-Series compressor on a dance music kick makes no sense whatsoever. 90% of my time is just goofing around and trying to come up with something.
This is a great trailer for, I mean, Masterclass.com is suddenly splurging out with all these kind of major celeb tutors and teachers, and this is obviously Deadmau5 teaching electronic music production. I think it's 20 plus lessons coming winter 2016, so I'm guessing any time now. Yeah, $90. I'm almost tempted because I just thought, what a great trailer, irreverent. It's not the stuff that I would expect to hear. It doesn't look like it's going to be dry. It looks like it's going to be quite a lot of fun. And I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, obviously Deadmau5 is a particular, is famous for a specific genre, contentious or not, but it looks like it is certainly keep you on your toes in terms of just what to expect. I don't know, Gaz, what are your thoughts about this one?
He's incredibly charismatic, isn't he? So
yeah, it does come across.
But I wonder if, I wonder how you'd feel at the end of the course. whether that it's quite interesting to spend all that time in his company, really. So I'm quite tempted. I'm intrigued to see. I mean, wow, just the glimpses of his studio there. It does look a bit wow, doesn't it? And is it right that Hans Zimmer has done one?
Hans Zimmer's just done one as well, and there's Werner Herzog, and they've just announced Gordon Ramsay on cooking. They're really going for it's a very interesting approach where they're taking the biggest name they can find and presumably talk into it and say, let's go. Because, I mean, I'd imagine a lot of people, these are people going to be buying these, if they're doing gift vouchers for Christmas, again, great idea. And, for little son, it's not outrageously expensive. And
it's like what's happened in television, isn't it? With sort of TV series becoming like massive feature films. It's like that for sort of video tutorial series.
It is. Wow. They really are pushing the boat out. They really are. And I like the fact that, all of the trailers, or a lot of the trailers, if they've got big characters, they're not pulling back on the kind of, the kind of language that they would use. And I think that's quite refreshingly honest in a way, that you're going to get the flavour of them, not a sort of completely sanitised version. Although I'd imagine it doesn't say under 14 or anything, so I'd imagine if you bought it and it was full of the F word or whatever, Mum might not be so happy about that. But we'll see if it's a bait and switch thing. I doubt it. I mean, and the thing is, he's got all of that stuff, but he's obviously got some very strong ideas on how to do things. There's a bit later on in the video where he's just sort of moving notes around on a grid going, I hate this. I wish I could play. This is my life. I absolutely hate it. But that honesty is actually kind of appreciated. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ty? You're looking sort of thoughtful there. Is that the sort of thing that you could imagine having a bit of fun with? I mean, it looks like a laugh, even if you might not learn, everything you need to know.
I think the idea of it is fantastic because, I think the idea of learning from someone who's at the top of their game, and as long as you kind of approach it from the right way, which is essentially you're kind of hoping that as much as telling you what to do, they're essentially telling you what not to do, which is more important, to be fair, because the what to do bit is the bit that should come from you and should come from your creativity and what, do you know what I mean? The way you approach it and what makes you give you your voice. But them telling you mistakes they've made, or even just giving you ideas or tips, or that is fantastic. And I think we all wish that when we were younger that we had something like that to draw from, because we basically didn't. And so the idea of I sometimes have to give lectures on doing what I do, and it's no different, to this, except these are people at the top of their game and have real presence and, as you say, characterful, which makes it entertaining. Because if it was boring and droll to watch, you'd get bored of this and you wouldn't be drawn in. So the fact that he's outgoing and personable and whatever is great. So I think the idea of it's good. Deadmau5 itself, I mean, he does nothing for me whatsoever, and there's nothing whatsoever I would want to learn from him. But the Hans Zimmer one, well, no, there isn't. There's nothing from the Hans Zimmer one. Absolutely, Hans Zimmer in terms of what I do is a god, and whether you love him or hate him, he's got something right. And so, if they're doing all these different genres, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think that anyone that, if it draws something out of them that they wouldn't have been drawn out of them before, that's, it's good. And as you say, it's Christmas. What a great idea.
It is. It's interesting that both him and the Hans Zimmer trailers kind of allude to the fact that, you don't need, Hans Zimmer says, I've got all this stuff, but actually I just need anything that will make a noise. I like to compose in D, so I'll just do that, and I like that. And I think the Werner Herzog thing, although it's about filmmaking, is the same thing. It's like you only need a couple of weeks to know how to make a film, whether or not you can is another matter. But,
absolutely.
And I just thought, it's sort of demystification, I suppose, because it's in many ways, it's in the professional's interest to try and keep this sort of elusive and this sort of, it's something special and magic that only I have, which of course they do have something special and magic, but the fact that they will then talk about it and kind of be honest.
But they don't. This is the thing. I mean, it's, this is not rocket science. It's not rocket science. I've spent years telling people that doing what I do, doing what, kind of people that write film, writing dance music, all this kind of thing, and writing music generally, it is not rocket science. It really isn't. You need to have an idea. You need to have a means of getting that idea out of you. And you need to try and do something that's coming from within you, not something that's superimposed and you feel you should be doing because that's the thing to do. And, there are the fact that exactly as he, Deadmau5 said on this, he wishes he was a player he can't play. Of course, from my point of view, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, for God's sake, just learn. It frustrates me thinking, but then you're going, but do you know what? The fact that he can't play, the fact that he's not a player, means that he's developed his style around that, and that will then shape his music. And whether that music works for me or doesn't work for me is completely irrelevant. The fact that that's his style, and he's developed that by not playing. And Hans Zimmer's always made it clear that he's not a trained musician. People like Vangelis is not a trained musician, and they have their way of approaching it. But all of this thing, I hate the idea that people do keep this, we're on a pedestal, we make money out of music, we know what we're doing, we can do things that you can't do. It's all crap. If people really want to, and they're willing to learn and willing to listen and willing to work hard, everyone can do it.
Oh, hold on. I'm just trying to... There we go. If I can get Ty back. There we go. Sorry, Ty. I just got to check. No, and I think you've got an absolutely fair point about that. And yeah, good on them. And I just think this is a really interesting column. They've got big stars in a lot of these things. I'll just show you. This is the masterclass.com. This is the Deadmau5 teaches electronic music production. It's gone past. I don't remember who said in the chat room that it starts on December the 18th. And you get classwork, but video lessons, office hours. I think that certain students will get evaluated by the man himself, and so there'll be a kind of critique of that, which is, is a good idea. Never expired. Oh yeah, here we go. There's Hans Zimmer's one, Aaron Sorkin, Werner Herzog, and I think I also saw there was like a Christina Aguilera singing one, which it's like, oh, that's really interesting because you only ever see the polished sort of video version of Christina Aguilera. You don't get to see her as a person saying, I like to do things like this. And that's the thing that I find interesting about all of these courses. I don't know, Ty, maybe you'll get a call from masterclass.com. I'd love to see you do one as well. That'd be awesome. Yeah, maybe. I don't go. Yeah. Are you tempted? I mean, I'm tempted to write to the PR company and say, can I have a code? Because I'd really like to see it.
Yeah. But we should be making stuff like this, I reckon. We could do it.
Yeah, not quite as big a pull as Deadmau5, perhaps, or Gordon Ramsay. But...
but yeah. I think it'd be great to do big in-depth series. So I think that'd be really good fun.
Cool. All right. Well, masterclass.com is where you go to get all of that stuff. There's a variety of things. I mean, I think you could quite easily impulse buy quite a lot of stuff there and spend, a lot of time just going through it, because I don't know what the quality of the content is like. It's hard to tell from the trailer. It looks like the intent and the sort of vibe of it is going to be really informative across all of their things. So I'm hoping that be the case. But very high production values as well. And the two guys behind it are a kind of, Silicon Valley sold an internet company and now do this kind of guys. So they clearly know what they're doing and got the right people involved. Anyway, let's take a break and just enjoy Neutron. This is iZotope's Neutron. It's the mixing suite and sort of adaptive analysis for checking which frequencies are overlapping and making decisions based on, you know, where you could tweak things to clean up and open out your mix. And then offer you suggestions on what to put on, you know, bass tracks or guitar tracks or vocal tracks or drum tracks, that side of things as well. And from what we hear from people who've used it, they really say it's actually quite impressive and really does help quite a lot. Of course, you can check this out yourself at isotope.com/neutron. Right there. Anyway, thank you very much for them as a sponsor. In fact, we have a competition we ran one last week. It's the first of the Neutron competitions where I forgot what the hashtag was, or the second rather. And we have a winner who's called Mr. Deadmau5 Music. On Twitter, he's called at Mr_Deadmau5. Debauch. He tweeted the hashtag Neutron to @sonicstate and @isotope Inc. and he said, looks great, or rather sounds great. So, well, now you'll find out because you will be getting a copy. All you got to do is get in touch with your email address and we'll pass it on to the kind folks at Isotope and that will be yours. And we also have another competition this week, which is, again, to win Isotope's Neutron. All you need to do is tweet. There are 2 hashtags this week, as I discovered. It makes it much easier to find a winner. The Mix Fixer, one word, and the hashtag Neutron. So the hashtag The Mix Fixer, one word, and the hashtag Neutron to @sonicstate and @isotope Inc. And you'll be entered into the competition and you'll be able to pick up a copy. We'll pick the one next week. So, want to say thank you very much to Isotope for sponsoring the show. Very much appreciated. Right, what's the next thing that we've got? Yeah, here we go. The new Keith McMillen Keyboard Pro 4.
This is Keyboard Pro 4, a new generation of keyboard for the future of music. Keyboard Pro 4 combines a traditional keyboard layout with advanced smart fabric sensor technology, making it immediately playable while providing an expanded range of expressive possibilities.
I won't play the whole video, but this is, again, you know, it's more kind of grist to the 5D MPE mill, but this is in a more familiar format. I mean, it's still got that kind of Rolly style kind of flat keyboard with pressure sensitive. They use their specific fabric, their special fabric, and Keith McMillen has been using this in their controls for a while. And this one looks to me it's a little bit more approachable instantly because, you know, you've got a more familiar layout. And I don't know if anyone's played one of these. Perhaps I'll get your thoughts on this first because I know, Ty, you love the Rolly larger format stuff, so I'm just curious to know what you think about this. Does this look like something that would be of interest?
If I didn't have the Rolly stuff, I think it probably would. I mean, I really like Keith McMillen stuff. Well, you know, I like the Keith McMillen stuff. I've got all their products so far, and I've ordered the bot pad or whatever it is, and so for me they make good stuff, and this looks good. It doesn't have some of the things that I really like about the Rolly stuff, but I think getting this MPE out to a wider world and getting people kind of used to the fact that this is an alternative controller and an alternative way of looking at things in a format, as you say, which is familiar, you know, kind of a traditional kind of keyboard shape and spacing. I think it's great. I think it's what I was talking about before. It just means that people can do something which is their own and something that's a bit different and non-traditional. So I think it looks a great product, and you know, the Keith McMillen stuff, they make good products. So I'm sure it will be great.
Yeah, I've got a picture of it here. It's obviously sort of standard looking keyboard layout, but you've got these additional 4 controllers on the top, and obviously the pressure, the position, the X, Y, and all of those things. I don't know if it does release velocity or not. I'm not sure. I know, Gaz, is this something that because previous Keith McMillen stuff, you know, some of it's very utilitarian and really, really great, and some of it, like the Q Nexus, was it the Cuneo, the is sort of feels a bit harder to integrate somehow. And this looks like a bit of a no-brainer if you're in that market, because I think it's going to be around about $450. That's what it looks like on the Kickstarter anyway, because it's once again a Kickstarter.
Okay, so it's a cheaper entry point than the smallest Rolly Rise.
Yeah.
By a couple of $100, I suppose. Okay, so and quite a bit cheaper than because there's a new Linstrument as well, isn't there? A smaller format Linstrument.
Yeah, that's true.
That's still a little bit more. It's a funny looking thing, isn't it? The like the handles. I wonder why they've gone for that design, because I think that it's an odd looking thing. I haven't quite decided if I like the look of it yet.
I don't think it matters too much. I mean, you could put your pencils in that side bit. You could, put your small change. I don't know. You could hang things off it. Your modular leads.
But it just seems strange to make it that bit bigger. For a portable thing.
I guess a single piece frame probably makes it more robust, more solid, without having to have so much more mass to it. I'm sure there's probably a design reason for it, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's just seeing one in the flesh would probably make a lot more sense as well. I think.
I have. There was one at NAMM beginning of the year, and I played around with it, and it felt actually quite easy. It was an easy to adapt thing because the spacing of the keys feels very same. I don't know if it's exactly the same as a standard set of keys, and obviously you've got the familiar layout, and you don't have to kind of think so much about it. It's still got that kind of tactile. It's not as squidgy as the Rolly, but it means that because the thing that I find with the Rolly, and you see when people play it, they don't play it like that so much, because when you do that, it kind of rides up, whereas this it doesn't, because it's not as flexible. So maybe that makes it a little easier to do that kind of movement on it if you're used to playing keys in a standard way, which is like that rather than like that. And it felt quite adaptive, although I didn't get an awful lot of time with it. But I thought, this looks really interesting. And the Kickstarter is they started it not that long ago actually, and they're already 4/5 of the way to doing it with the 27 days to go. And I think that the first. The $400 ones have gone. There's still 450 ones and 500 ones. So it goes up the more you wait. But it's still not. I mean, it doesn't seem. I think the Rolly Seaboard Rise 25, or is it the 49? The 25, I think is about. I think that's actually quite a lot more, isn't it? The Rise Seaboard Rise 25. Let me see. I'll see if I can find the pricing for it. I think it's It's $649 UK, so that's going to be somewhere in the region of $700 or $800. So it's like maybe $200 or $300 more than the Rolly, but again, a different thing. And again, it would be nice to know. I don't know about the connectivity, because a lot of the Keith McMillen stuff has that breakout, the host port, so you can put actual MIDI ports on it. So it's not just limited to a USB connection to your host computer or software or whatever.
Yeah, I would guarantee they would use the little breakout point, because that works with most of their products now, doesn't it? I think that price point is really good. And just as you were saying before, this thing about MPE becoming just really established, and for it to really become a new standard, manufacturers need to start accommodating for it in their products. And so the more devices there are which are MPE compatible will kind of hopefully speed up that process as well, which I think is a good thing for electronic music.
The one thing that I should mention is I did the Softube modular review, and I did a bunch of sounds, and in the meantime that came out, there was a Seaboard Rise interface module, which means that you can plug that into MIDI controllers and certainly within the Softube, and that starts to open it outside of the kind of the Rolly software, such as Equator and what have you, and it takes it into that world. But just looking at this, it doesn't look like there are multiple zones, which would be really awesome if you could split the keyboard perhaps and have different things going on, X and Y axis, because then you could use it. I mean, that would make it, even if it was just a dual split, that would make it really, really, really useful, I think. But maybe I'm just not seeing everything there, because that's only one screenshot. So there's a lot of potential there, and I think, it's definitely. I guess we'll have to see it at NAMM, and I'll try and get to play a bit more on it. And I don't know when they're looking to deliver. Let's have a look. Let's see. I'll just go back to the web page. Where's it likely to be delivered? Let's see. I can't see that there. September 2017. Oh, that's
wow.
That's actually some way off, isn't it? So that's a bit disappointing. I think.
Yeah.
Are they all? Yeah, they're all September. So we're nearly a year off, or certainly 10 months.
I think they may have learnt, though, from previous Kickstarters of they were quite late delivering the Cuneo, I seem to remember. So they probably, I think they probably have to manage expectations better now. Well,
it's interesting because I've seen a prototype, or certainly a working thing, and there is something in existence. I suppose there are probably still, when you're working with something that's non-standard, the bulk manufacture becomes more challenging because you're dealing with something that factories aren't necessarily set up to stamp out of the box.
I think this is the massive case with Kickstarter across the board, with lots of different products in different categories. That very thing, the idealistic idea of it, as soon as they try to ramp up to meet it, all sorts of problems happen. So I think it's a positive thing that they're setting dates more realistically.
Sorry, Ty?
No, I was just going to say, I was just agreeing with Gaz. I've kind of stopped because I did a lot of Indiegogo and Kickstarter things. I've kind of stopped recently because the date they're promised for delivery and the actual delivery sometimes so unbelievably out.
Yeah, it's not the sort of thing that you'd back in time for a tour that you needed that particular piece of equipment for, right?
There were things that I backed almost 3 years ago that were meant to be there within 6 months that still haven't appeared yet. It's that kind of thing. I mean, like two years over where you're meant to get them, and but you just keep getting emails every month saying we're really sorry, but so I've kind of pulled back a bit from them because, as you say, but
I should just point out in the chat room we're being asked why does everything have to be spongy and no moving parts? And I would suggest that the reason is, if you buy a regular keyboard with aftertouch, adds an enormous amount because each key has to have a separate sensor that's got moving parts to it. As soon as you start adding moving parts to everything, it becomes way, way more expensive, especially if you're thinking, kind of left, right, and up, down, and all of those other things that are happening. I don't think this has release velocity. That's the one thing it doesn't have, but that's not necessarily the end of the world. But we wish them a great deal of luck, and because Keith McMillen stuff is really good and really useful, and for a lot of people it fills that hole that means you can't do it any other way. That you see those, is it the Q Nexus keyboards everywhere now? People are using those for modulars because they've got CV output. I'm tempted to get one of those just because it's a really quick way to plug in CV control into a modular system, and I think they've sold a lot of those, and I think that's been very successful for them. Anyway, let's move on. I have another video here. This is we've been asked to talk about this several weeks in a row. So for all of those people who've been asking for it, here it is. This kind of looks a bit like a circuit on steroids. It's a grid-based synth and sample engine built in hardware with a grid-based system, plus also additional rotary controls, sample playback, 64 megs of RAM. I think it's got an up to 32 gig SD card, so you could run. I'm thinking you could run this as the heart of a live system and just trigger loops or trigger backing tracks or whatever. I don't know. We'd have to explore that. But it's also got a cool synth engine as well. Again, DSP, New Zealand company as well, which is unusual. And it's called, it's the Synthstrom Audible Deluge. Deluge is the model number, Synthstrom Audible is the company. I'm going to come to you first, Gaz, because we've been talking about Circuit, we're doing an update to Circuit, and this is very much in the Circuit mold, but Circuit doesn't have that level of manipulation and sample RAM and those things. Does this look interesting to you?
Oh, definitely. I think that's a really cool little demo there. I really like the piece of music that they were playing in it. And I think that's indicative of the sort of music that you'd make on it, which is, it seems to have that really good through the, down the rabbit hole kind of thing where you can really you can do quite cool sample manipulation with it.
Yeah, there's another video where it really starts to get into kind of almost granular world, and that's the one that really made me took up a notice, because the synth demos I've been hearing so far haven't really done much for me, but the sample manipulation, that was like, oh, now that sounds cool.
There's something about that form factor as well. I mean, the circuit. Last night I had a terrific sort of journey with the circuit. Just headphones. Here it is. Actually on batteries as well. Headphones. Just sitting with it, and this looks like that workflow would work really, really nicely. It's going to be a completely different workflow as well.
I'd imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's got more. If we just go, it's got more a wider grid, so it's 16 by 8 plus this little row of 8 by 2. Plus, it's got these knobs on it, which at the moment are kind of knurled. Those delightful sort of knurled metal ones, at least as far as I can tell. And it all looks like it's got gate and CV out. Oh, I've just spotted that. MIDI in and out. Only a stereo output by the looks of things. USB. And a built-in mic as well. So kind of quite a lot of features there.
Oh, built-in mic, yeah. So you can sample directly into it.
I guess so, yeah.
Want.
Already. Okay, that's it, is it? So you can sample your beard scratches and what have you. Make a nice kibasa, that, I'd imagine. But you can pre-order this thing. I think the pre-orders shut on 25th of November at midnight. Looks like it's around, because they're doing a kind of, we need to get critical mass and then we'll build a load, because obviously they have to again buy, a small company, order the right number of parts and all that sort of thing. $780 US dollars, which to me doesn't actually seem all that expensive. I don't know what you think, Ty. Are you trying?
Well, do you know, this actually made me realise that something has changed in my life when I looked at this, because I mean, I came late. I've said this several times. I came late to the DAW world, and I was, it was all hardware sequences for me. And so initially I looked at this and thought, wow, great, this is looking good. And then exactly like you said, Nick, the synth side of things, sound-wise, I just thought, well, no, this isn't sounding that great. But the sampling side of things, you think, okay, that's interesting. And then I watched the demo they did with the sampling and then thought, oh, yeah, this is sounding interesting. And then realised that all they were actually doing was changing the loop time, which we all used to do with hardware samplers. So they're in the loop time down to, kind of pitched, and then filtering that and sticking it through some delay. So all of a sudden I kind of lost interest in that side of things. But what it really did for me was made me realise that I've got old. And the reason it made me realise this was, do you remember when we were kids? Do you remember when we were younger? And our parents would try and operate the VHS. And do you remember they couldn't figure out how to work out the video recorder? And it was down to us to be sitting there going, oh, Mom, Dad, you just do this, and you press this, and you double press this, and you press this button 3 times, and you choose the date, and then do you remember we could do that?
Yeah.
And
yes, I know what you mean.
They were just going, okay, we'll leave it to him. And I looked at this, and when they were doing the demos of, kind of you press this button and then you're now on this page, although there's nothing to say you're on that page apart from a little red LED somewhere that all of a sudden you're on this page and you're now in triplet mode, although the only reason you're at triplet mode is this other little light is lit. It's got so many multiple pages with, kind of controllers going up the right, which assign this to the left and on this whole matrix thing. And I just thought, you know what? Life is too short to be learning all of these different combinations of this coloured light when it's lit up with this little light here. Mainly because in terms of screen, you've basically got a very basic LED at the top, and you've just got the lights down the side. I mean, as you can see there in that picture. So there's no proper LCD, and you're basically having to just completely learn it
Yes, this is the point, though, isn't it?
Well, you're actually right, Gaz. I'll tell you what. On Monday I did an interview with Clayton Selldweller, a big guy on YouTube, lots and lots of followers. He's got a very broad. He's got several big musical projects. Some are sort of more metally kind of industrial rock metal kind of stuff. Lots of synths. He's mad on synthesizers. And one thing that he said, which I thought was really interesting, which was kind of in many ways the opposite of what you're saying, is what he likes to do is get things he doesn't know how to use, because it forces him to be creative in a way that he wouldn't ordinarily be creative, because he's had to do that. And I guess that's maybe the difference. I don't know.
Now, that I totally agree with. I totally agree with that concept. Absolutely. Because there are things that I've bought that I haven't got a clue how they worked. I bought not just electronic instruments. I mean, I bought an Eigenharp. Yay! I've got a Tenorion that still to this day I can't really figure out how some of the menus work. I bought acoustic instruments. I bought a mandolin. I can't play the blinking mandolin.
That'd be really hard, yeah.
But I've bought kind of different ethnic instruments that I haven't got a clue how they play, but they take it out of your comfort zone and you do something new and something original. Now that I get all of that, you're absolutely right. What I don't get with this is the fact that you're learning all these different button approaches and all this kind of thing, but I couldn't get what this was doing that you couldn't do with other things in a lot clearer and easier kind of way. All the sampling things, that isn't impressive. It sounded quite nice what they were doing, but you can do that on any half decent hardware sampler. The fact the synth sounds really don't sound that great. The filter doesn't sound that great. And I love the idea that, exactly as you say, this is an up-and-coming New Zealand company. New Zealand's a beautiful country, but they're not known for their manufacturing. So I really love that idea about it. But for me personally, it's just someone actually put on the forum. It's the gaming philosophy where you're learning combinations.
Yeah, I suppose.
The thing is, I like this though. I'm into this sort of thing, and I think there is a big thing to be said for everything that you're saying. But as a positive, yeah, fine.
That's fantastic. I mean, I get accused with this, exactly going back to the Rolly thing. I get people turning around and going, well, you got to kind of. I keep saying it's a good thing that you have to learn as an instrument again. You have to learn how to play. You have to. I see that as a positive. I don't see just pressing lots of buttons and learning all the combination as a positive. But obviously for Gaz, he does, and that's great. That's fantastic. But
I think it is one of these things. So you can't check your Facebook on it. That's that whole kind of
single purpose. Yes, a purpose machine for the purpose.
Yeah, and I'm quite hopeful that this thing has got a little bit of a punky kind of quality to it. That they're gonna...
It looks better than that. I mean, but yes, I know what you mean. I think the thing is that part of the problem is, it's trying to do lots of complex things. I mean, the grid paradigm we understand more because there's been a lot of them around. But there's things that are in OS paradigms, you get the danger, and it happened with the Casio WK, whatever it was. The features are astonishing. The sound was okay, but the capabilities are amazing. But because it's an unfamiliar OS, you get frustrated because you think, oh, I expect I'd press shift and this. It's like, no, you don't. You do something else that you'd never heard of, a way of doing it, or the voice structure is some completely unfamiliar. And that's hard to get going on, I suppose. And I think that's the difficulty with newer companies. They don't necessarily have the knowledge of those GUIs and those workflows, which means it's easier to pick up for people with some experience in using this kind of stuff.
If the thing is, if this was your only instrument, or this was your starting point, if this was, you had this and maybe a couple of other synth, and you could dedicate the time to learning how to use it, a bit in a way like some of the Electron stuff, if you can dedicate the time to learning it, and I'm sure you could get some great results out of this, and I'm sure that this could be the absolute centerpiece of your studio and would be wonderful.
Well, I like the idea of this, that it is standalone and it will play back a lot of sample stuff, because I think that would be good for live stuff too.
Absolutely, but bearing in mind, so I was brought up with MPCs that were exactly that. But the MPC was the center of my world for a long time, with synths flying off it. So I'm very open to that. But from my point of view, if they had bought out this product with a traditional LCD, with traditional idea of pages of, you kind of knew you could just look at it and know straight away where you were or what mode you were in, or what you were doing, were you sampling, were you, all this. If it visually was more what I would call traditional, then I would have a lot more time for it. Okay. But I think the problem I have with it is there's just this kind of movement at the moment to try and make everything have as fewer kind of LCDs, which means that you're having to translate from whatever combination of particular lights on the grid are lit up at that moment tells you where you are. And
the thing is, I really, there is that thing, though, of conquering a piece of kit, and when you start getting the muscle memory, then once that stuff starts to pay dividends is when it all happens, like, instantly, because you've managed to put the time in, as you say. But I think that I find that attractive, and I really like that movement away from screens. I've got the Analog 4 by here, and that obviously got a lot of criticism because of the very, very small display. And Electron was saying, well, it's not so much about the screen, it's just kind of there. And it's true. The screen is, you're not fixated on the screen. The screen
after
is
you've
just,
learned how it works, yeah.
But it is the time, and this thing, I've put a lot of time into it now, and I only feel like I'm only ever so scratching the surface on it. But so it's a completely valid point about the amount of time these things take. But I do actually like
you enjoy that process.
Yeah, and also but as I say, when it pays the dividends, that's when it sort of is so much faster than, say, like a DAW-based way of working, just because click, 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 you're doing really fast stuff.
I think I can totally understand that, and I think that's where you get this kind of this mix, because obviously Ty is a professional working musician, hasn't necessarily got time to do that. So therefore, it becomes less of a priority to kind of learn, new synthesizers. You've got the existing paradigm, and there may be characteristics or methods within the rough shape of it that you can then manipulate and take it in different directions. But you're starting from, essentially the same language. Whereas something like this, I suppose, although it's not fair to single this out specifically, something like this, something which is very unfamiliar, is a bit like going to a country and not being able to speak a word of the language and trying to get by, right?
Are exactly right. You've hit the nail on the head, and it is a personal thing. And I also, though, will take a step back to when I was the age I was, where I was programming the VHS for my mum and dad. I would probably have loved this and loved the idea of giving the time to learn it and it becoming part of, my world. So it is. I honestly think the whole VHS analogy is, a crap one, but I think there's a lot to be said to it. I think I'm just too old, really. That's basically it.
I mean, just as a side note, it's interesting, isn't it? Because as, societally, we all have less time. I mean, that's not just about our age, but no matter where you are in your career, the pressure to put the hours in to work enough to be able to afford your flat in London where you like to go to gigs, or whatever it may be, means you have less time to devote just to sort of, whether it be gaming or whatever it may be. I mean, it must be the same in games. There are paradigms within games that if somebody comes up with a big blockbuster game, but all the controls are different and people are just going to go, I haven't got time for that. I just want to play the game. You end up, you're in danger of getting, and again, this is not a criticism of the Synthstrom at all. It's just, generally speaking, that is a problem because we all have actually less leisure time and less time to put into these things. So that must be something that's constantly changing. Hence the rise of iOS, where everything is isomorphic, very simple. Generally speaking, once you've got the rough gist of it, it all have the same user experience across different apps and all of that sort of stuff.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not a gamer, but I used to like playing video games just like anyone else did. And then last Christmas, I bought a PS4 with a whole load of games, and I think it's probably got in the last year about 1 hour's use for no other reason than as I'm reading through the manuals, and it's saying press X with O0 combination, standing on your head with the wind in the right direction, and I was just looking, going, what, and it's not for me. It's another world. So it's just sat there and unloved, unused, and I know for a fact that I like the idea of this as an instrument, but it would sit there unloved and unused. So it's
So that's why you won't be the 25th. This is for those who've maybe just come in. This is Synthstrom, Audible, Deluge, which is this thing here, which is the pre-orders are shutting on midnight on the 25th of November. But anyway, all very interesting points, but an interesting idea about why these things are more difficult to adopt as well. Okay, I mean, I think that we did have another topic, but I think I probably got to knock it on the head now because I've got to shoot off and do some other stuff. But guys, it's been a pleasure as ever having both of you on board. I should quickly, before I wrap up, just say thank you very much to iZotope for sponsoring the show. Don't forget, if you want to join in the fun and have a chance to win iZotope's Neutron, you want to tweet the hashtag TheMixFixer and the hashtag Neutron. The Mixfixer is one word, the hashtag TheMixFixer and the hashtag Neutron. That's Neutron, if in case you're listening audio only, to @sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And just remains to me to say thank you very much to you both for joining us. Gaz, thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow at some point when we can resume our journey into the Novation circuit.
Yeah. Good. Look forward to that. It's good. Yeah. So thanks, everyone.
You're welcome. And also, Mr. Ty Unwin, thank you too. I hope this has proved a short distraction from your day job, and you've maybe even got a couple of hours free to make some scones or something.
Yeah, because that's me. That's what I do. No, it's been great. It always is. So, yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you very much, guys. Very much fun. Just to say, coming up on Sonic Talk, we've got the Sonic State. We've got the, if you haven't seen it, check out the OB6 desktop review. We've also got the Cell Dweller interview, which will be coming up soon. I'm going to take a look at the Modal CRAFTsynth, which I've got here. That will be coming up in a few days. And we've also got a quite an in-depth series on how to use iZotope RX from a dialogue editing point of view, which is really interesting, and there's going to be a competition attached to that as well. Lots of stuff coming, so please do stay tuned. That's it for this week. That was Sonic Talk number 472. See you next time.